looking and sounding your best in virtual environments. Randy Hudson.
Thank you, Rocky. I always wanted to be an expert at something. Astrophysics, maybe, neuroscience, oceanography. Imagine my chagrin, my disappointment when it turned out I was an expert on audiovisual. That's right. I have been working with audiovisual since 1986. And if you don't want to do the math, I'll do it for you. That's almost 4 decades ago. I started as an AV nerd, pushing that squeaky cart down the hotel hallway, but using my technical aptitude, the requisite nerdiness, and my drive and my ambition, I started my own AV company. And I've been doing that ever since. I have transformed from AV nerd to AV nerd. And over those decades, I have been in the back of countless darkened ballrooms, witnessing thousands and thousands of speeches, some good, some bad, and some just ridiculous. But when the pandemic happened, the AV industry, my industry, just ceased to exist completely. And as a company and as an industry, we all had to pivot. Hello, virtual meetings. During those years, I learned a lot and witnessed the explosive development of the virtual platforms that we have today, Zoom, WebEx, Teams. And I'm here today to share what I have learned and to offer some best practices to you, my Toastmasters friends and guests. But hey, Randy, the pandemic's over. Why are we still doing Zoom meetings? Well, what started as a novelty, FaceTime, Skype, became a necessity to conduct business, to continue education, to stay in touch with other human beings. The technology grew up quickly, and how we communicate also transformed permanently. Look at these statistics. In 2024, 27% of all US-based meetings were held virtually. And here's something very interesting. 73% of millennials and Gen Z, which I guess are called zillennials now, are likely to communicate digitally more than in person. Like it or not, Zoom, WebEx, and Teams are here to stay. What I hope to do here today is to give you some tools and some tricks for navigating and mastering this new landscape. And most importantly, how to make a good virtual impression. A first impression, a last impression, and a lasting impression. I'm going to talk about the technology that's available. I'm going to share some best practices. I will, well, for one, we're all savvy by now, aren't we? But I may cover a lot which you already know. Hopefully, I'll give you 1 or 2 new ideas that you can take with you. I will also cover some specific tips for the fall online speech contest. And at the end, I will open it up for Q&A. My goal today is to provide some virtual enlightenment. Ready? It's easy to make a bad impression. That's why it's time for me to become the digital version of Emily Post for just a minute. I want to talk about etiquette that applies to all virtual meetings. If you are in a meeting, a virtual meeting, wherever it is, you have been invited into someone else's personal space, their kitchen, their office, their bedroom. It's your responsibility to be a good guest. You may or may not have to take off your shoes, if you're even wearing shoes or pants. But be courteous and respectful. Just because this is a virtual space, it doesn't mean you could be a jerk. And that means keep your camera on, keep your microphones muted, don't distract, and don't be distracted. Let's just jump to the scary part, the deep end of the pool, the technology. It's very simple. There are 4 things to think about: a way to see, a way to be seen, a way to hear, and a way to be heard. Presumably, everybody in this room here today has all those things, or you wouldn't be here. So let's start with the first 2, seeing and being seen. Oh, that's not good. No. Are any of these any good at all? No. What kind of an impression can you make with images like these? What can make them better? Well, a few things: the camera itself, the composition, the lighting, and of course, the background. Let's start with the camera. Your built-in camera obviously works just fine or you wouldn't be here. The quality of that depends on the brand. It also depends on the age because technology has gone leaps and bounds over the last several years. One other thing, if you don't want to use your automatic thing, is a good, well, I'll just do it this way, a good cheap webcam. This is what I use on most of my meetings. It's $60 new or $10 on eBay. It's a very good quality camera. Or you could do like I do and you get a full production system with cameras that cost more than your car. I don't recommend that. I recommend utilizing what you have, maximizing what you already have. Let me give you a little example. My wife was about to buy a new camera for her computer because it was fuzzy, it didn't look good. So she was going to get something new and high tech. And we looked at it and I realized the lens was dirty. She wiped it off, bam, super clear. So we saved a lot of money, maximize what you already have. We'd like to play a game. I'd like you all to raise your right hand. Now stick your arm straight out. Now point at your camera. Look where you're pointing. It should be right here, straight ahead at eye level. If you're pointing this way, this way, this way, this way, your camera's in the wrong place. Jim, you are dead on, aren't you? That's perfect. How do you put your camera in the right place? Well, I recommend this book, How to Put Your Camera in the Right Place. You don't actually have to read it. You just put it under your computer and then you stack more books up until your camera is right where it needs to be, right there. And you can be creative. It doesn't have to be a book. It could be a stack of books, or it could be, I don't know, it's not there. I don't need that. It's a later thing in the speech. You could use a stack of books. You could use a box. You can inexpensive iPhone stand, anything. But the idea is to have your camera right there. Why is that important? Now, let me demonstrate. If your camera is too low, it looks like you're looking down at everyone else. No one wants to look up your nostrils. Trust me on that. I certainly don't. And the psychology of this is that you're being manipulative if you're doing it on purpose. But if you're not doing it on purpose, it just looks bad. However, if the camera is too high, you look like you're in a hole and it looks like you're straining. It's awkward. It's uncomfortable. You get fatigue. You're going to have a chiropractor trip sometime in the near future, like Mary was just telling us about. Strive for having the camera right here, level with your eyes in a natural, comfortable posture. So now that the camera is in exactly the right place, look at it as often as you can. How do you remember to do that? It's so easy to look at the pictures of the people, but I recommend maybe a Post-it note. Draw a little smiley face and click that to your computer right next to your camera. Or a picture of a loved one or your favorite movie star, just something to remind you to look there and maybe coax you to smile every once in a while. Now let's look at two other aspects of your composition. The distance you are from the camera and your positioning within the frame. You should be not too close and not too far, but it completely depends on what kind of a meeting you're in. If you're in a casual meeting, a medium distance is fine. If you're in a one-on-one close conversation, you're going to want to be where people can see your expressions. And if you're doing a presentation or doing a workshop, you want to be far enough back so you can move, use the stage, and all your gestures are seen. So the distance is important. Also headroom. That's the distance from here to the top of the frame. If you have too little headroom, let me do it this way. If you have too little headroom, there's a problem. You look like Shaq O'Neal. If you have too much headroom, you look like a hobbit. Now, no offense to Shaq or Frodo. As a general reference, look around the room that you're in and try to balance and match what you see on the screen. I see a few different looks on our screen here, and they're all good, but it all depends on what you're trying to go for at that point. So I've covered the camera itself. I talked about looking at the camera. I've talked about the composition of your shot. Next, I want to talk about lighting. How to help your camera do what your camera does. Good lighting is probably one of the most important things. I'm going to cover some of the basics, First, you try for 2 points of light. You can do 3 if you want to, but it's not really that necessary for a Zoom meeting. 2 points, usually around a 45-degree angle in front of you. Why 2? Because if you have one off to the side, you're going to have shadows over here, vice versa on that side. If you have single light in front of you, you're going to be blinded and not be able to see who you're talking to. So 2 lights work very well. The angle is important, as long as it's off to the side like this, but also the up and down angle. They should be even with you at this point in time, because if you do, let's say the light's too high, you end up with shadows under your eyebrows, under your nose, and it looks like you haven't slept in a while. And if your light is too low, it looks like you're ready to tell ghost stories by the campfire. Another thing, windows. Windows could be your friend, they could be your enemy. If it's behind you, it's your enemy. If it's in front of you, it's your friend. If you have to have a window behind you, let me tell you why windows are your friend first. The light coming from outside is diffuse. It's bouncing off of everything outside. So what's happening is you're not getting shadows. You're getting a good, even light. If it's in front of you, that's wonderful. If it's behind you, it messes with your autofocus and your auto iris, and it messes with the camera completely. So turn off or close the blinds. If necessary, try to reposition your camera so you don't have the windows directly behind you. I probably should be pushing some of these buttons as I go. The next thing I want to talk about is visible light sources. If you have a desk lamp or a ceiling lamp or something, it should not be in the shot. That means it's not lighting you. All it's doing is taking away from the lighting that you're already using. Overhead lights, basically, you can be creative with your lighting. Here's something else that's of interest is ring lights. We've all played with ring lights. And with a ring light, you have, bam, ring lights are wonderful. If you have 2 of them. Now, if you're wearing glasses like I do, and you only have 1, you have to watch out for that little cyborg effect that you have on your glasses. No offense meant to cyborgs. So that is what I'm talking about on lighting, but be creative because there's a lot of choices that you can do. You can have what I use. These are studio lights. This did not cost much at all. This is $140 at Walmart for the set of 2 with the carrying bag and the stance. Other things you could use is a desk lamp, or you could use a floor lamp. Take off the lampshade, just whatever is available. I do a lot of work in hotels, so I end up having to take the lampshades off and reposition and redecorate the hotel all the time. Now, I've talked about the camera. I've talked about looking at the camera. I've talked about the composition and lighting. And now there's one more important visual element I would like to talk about, and that is your background. I'm not talking about your job history or your criminal record. I'm talking about your actual background. When you join a virtual meeting, you're also inviting all of us to visit. Are you ready for that? Of course, we'll be looking at you while you're speaking, but I'm sorry to say we will also be looking at your background, and we will judge you. That's right. We can't help it because we're human. Bookshelves make an excellent background, but be warned, people will take the time to read every title that they can. The same is true for photos, awards, knickknacks. They may be part of your environment, your personality, and they're wonderful, but be aware they may send a message, so be sure that that message is intentional. By the way, did anybody notice the dolphin in the back of my shot? My point exactly. So what about virtual backgrounds, Randy? Good question. For the record, I'm not a fan of virtual backgrounds. I'll look around and see where my props are. Not a fan of virtual backgrounds at all, because Zoom backgrounds have inherent challenges. To me, nothing is more distracting than having someone's ear randomly disappear and then reappear. It's a distraction. Let me show you some of the typical challenges I have seen with virtual backgrounds. Stand by for a virtual background. Okay, headphones is the first thing I want to point out. If you put headphones on while you're on a virtual background, you end up, well, first it's invisible, and then it goes, oh, there I am. And you end up with a little halo effect, which is just strange. That's one thing that happens with virtual backgrounds. A lot of this happens because there's not enough light. If you turn off the light, yeah, your virtual background and you don't look that good. That is one of the challenges with virtual backgrounds. The other is turning my lights back on again. Well, that was a really nice effect you did there, Randy. There we go. The next thing I want to mention on virtual backgrounds is props. If I have a prop and I want to show it to you in my speech, it's, well, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Oh yeah, it's the dolphin. Here he is. If you need to use a prop in your presentation on a virtual background, bring it up from below, and that way it doesn't disappear on you. And one more thing, think about the appropriateness of your virtual background. We all know that I'm not on the beach in St. Thomas. Having a background that's appropriate to the meeting or the speech is something you should consider. A business meeting or job interview, nice clean office or professional background. Social gathering, have fun, knock yourself out. And let me turn off that virtual background. Yay. That covered the visual aspects of a virtual meeting. The camera, looking at the camera, the composition, the lighting, the background. So let's talk about sound. First, being heard. You have a lot of options for microphones. Your device that you have right now, your computer, your tablet, your phone. Again, it depends on the age and the brand of your device. It may be good, it may be bad. The newer things are much better than the older things. One thing about the microphones built into the device, they're generally omnidirectional, which means they pick up sound from all directions, which means they're susceptible to room noise, background noise, echoes, things like dogs chirping and birds barking. And although Zoom processes a lot of that out, it may still give you a hollow and echoey sound. However, back to my camera, that Logitech camera has got two little directional microphones in it, so it actually picks up sound only directly in front where you are. Another choice would be earbuds. Earbuds used to sound like you were talking through a pillow, which is not a really good sound. That would be pillow, I said. They are muffled, they're unclear, they look good. And then headsets are something that sound amazing. If you're listening, the microphone is right where it needs to be, but again, it does have a challenge with Zoom backgrounds and things like that. And then last would be an external microphone, not necessarily last, but an external podcast kind of microphone, something that sounds amazing. It's awesome. It's expensive. If it's in the camera shot, it looks a little pretentious, but the problem with it really is that it's fixed in place. Good for an interview, good for sitting down, but if you want to move around, it's a challenge. And then what I use is a lavalier microphone whenever possible, because the microphone follows you wherever you go, forward, back, and it doesn't change. It's always pointing right where it needs to be, which is towards your mouth. The challenges with lavalier microphones is if you have long hair, not a challenge for me, but if you have long hair or jewelry, it could make noise. And if you do things like this, it actually causes distractions. And again, distractions are a bad idea. Again, all of these microphones, the quality of the microphone, it's not just the type, you need to know the quality of the microphone itself. Have a good brand. If you go cheap, it's going to sound cheap. So that was being heard. Now, how do you hear them? You need to hear them too, and there's a lot of options. The first obvious choice is, again, the device speakers themselves. It's good in a private location. Otherwise, people are going to hear everything else that you're listening to in your meeting. You can also use earbuds, headphones. Again, good quality, privacy. Nobody can hear what other people are saying on your meeting, and you can use these in public places. I suggest that you mix and match. For example, use your earbuds as your speakers and then your webcam or your computer as your microphone. And for a formal presentation, you may want to walk around, stand up, move a lot. You may want an external speaker like a small Bluetooth speaker. Where's my Bluetooth speaker? Down at the bottom. But for me, what I like to do when I'm listening to a presentation is I like to do something like this. But that's just what I do. That's how you hear, that's how you're heard. But I'd like to make a few more comments about some best practices for audio in virtual meetings. The title of my speech before was, "Is this mic on?" Don't say that. Don't ever say that. That's like, if you say it and your mic is on, then it was redundant. If you say it and your mic's not on, nobody hears you. It's sort of like the existential question of the tree following in the woods, does it make a sound? The answer is, don't even try that. What you can do with microphones, you can test it on Zoom before you start. In addition to in a case like we had today, you can talk with other people and people know your mic's on. But you can test it using the Zoom audio settings and test your microphone, test your speaker, and still be on mute. Nobody in the audience is going to hear you. So you can test it like before a contest just to make yourself feel comfortable, and then take yourself back off mute and everything is good. And then lastly, never have more than one Zoom device in the same physical room unless everyone is using headphones or earbuds, because what happens if you do? You end up with some really bad sound, and I can't believe this is. All right, that's enough of that gimmick. Where am I? I already went through that. Okay, here's something else. There is a very nice noise reduction feature on all of the Zoom platform, WebEx, Teams, and it works really, really well. But sometimes it works too well. For example, you generally won't be able to hear clapping or finger snaps because the Zoom just filters it right out. I did a presentation, as many of you saw the year before last, where the finale was the popping of a balloon. And it worked perfectly. I had a pin hidden in my hand, and so it just popped on cue, looked amazing. Nobody heard a sound, lost all of its effect. So there's a button in the top right that says original sound for musicians. It usually is in the off position. Turn it on. That will give you the ability to have some of those sounds go through, but Zoom still filters a lot of those out. And that is that. One device per room. I really should know where my slides are going, shouldn't I? I talked about the camera. I talked about looking at the camera. I talked about the composition, lighting, backgrounds, microphones, speakers. I'm going to add one last additional very important topic, and that is your internet connection. Without a good internet connection, none of this is possible. And to have a good connection, you should check your speed. Here's one way you can check your speed. You go to speedtest.org. This is a free site, and it works very, very well no matter where you are. And you go to the site, you click on a button, and it will give you a chart. It'll show you your upload and your download speed right then at that moment. It's a very good way to know that you have good internet. The challenge is you do this not on a Sunday night at 2 in the morning. You do it at the same time of the day that you're going to be doing your presentation. Otherwise, it'll be different. The speed you have at Sunday in the morning is going to be different than when the kids come home and they're playing games and your in-laws are streaming movies and the neighbor across the hallway is stealing the internet like he always does. So if you're going to test your internet speed, test it at the same time of day that you are planning on doing your presentation. And if you are sharing internet and you have an important presentation or a contest, ask your family, your roommates, not to play games, download movies, or do any serious streaming during your meeting or presentation. And one more very important and very obvious thing that a lot of people forget, plug it in. The last thing that you want is that your computer dies, your phone dies, and you go, now what? So plug it in. I would consider also getting a battery backup for any critical pieces you have in your infrastructure, whether it's a router or a switch or something that is susceptible to losing power as well. Moving over to this side. Contest tips for what's coming up. Practice on Zoom. That's the first thing that I would say. Practice, practice. Record yourself on Zoom. Watch it play back, and you will be able to see. You look for your shadows. Listen to your sound. Listen to the microphone, and you'll know exactly what other people are seeing and hearing, and you'll get a good impression. You can buy Zoom for a paid account, but that's not necessary. If you don't have Zoom, you can get a free account, and that's perfectly fine for doing this. Practice, practice, and then listen. Your background, go for a blank background, simple, clean, no distractions whatsoever. I would say stand up, use the space. You have a lot of room to move. Don't get too close where you're doing this, because then you lose a lot of the effects of whatever your contest speech was going to be. Manage your bandwidth. I talked to you about that one. Make the kids, make the spouse, the neighbors, and the pets just leave the building. Manage your CPU. Turn off everything on your computer, all your programs and apps. You don't want to have video playing in the background, streaming in the background. You don't want any music that you were listening to on pause. Turn it all off completely so that way you have no issues with the computer freezing up at the wrong time. Test everything. Test it before you go online. Test it once you're in the room. Test it while you're in the speaker prep room, wherever you happen to be. Test your audio. Look at your video. Look at your lighting, so that way you are comfortable when the speech starts, and you can actually focus all of your energy on doing the best speech you can possibly do. And lastly, what do you need? Oh, fix-it time. The contest has a 10-minute fix-it time, at least the one in my district, where if you lose internet connection, you can come back within 10 minutes, start right where you left off, and finish your speech. Now, the question I always have on this is, how do you know you lost your internet connection? How do you know where you left off? And I don't really have a solid answer to that, but I would think that maybe having a buddy system, having somebody who's there to support you anyway, grab you on the phone and say, hey, right after you said the thing about the squirrel, that's when we lost you. Go back. So that's what I would say about the fix-it time. And then the last one I wanted to say is, what do you need to see during the contest? You need to see the contest chair. You need to see the timer. You need to see yourself, very importantly, and you need to see the interviewer. I would recommend staying in speaker view, or what I'm doing right now is I pinned myself so that way somebody coming in with an unmuted microphone doesn't pop up on screen and I lose my image of knowing that I'm standing to this side of the graphic on the screen instead of or walking off stage, whatever. So you do want to see yourself for sure. Do not have the button. There's a button on Zoom that says hide self view. Make sure that one's not turned on. You want to turn off all non-video participants, and that'll take all those names of people who are blank and make them disappear. So all you will see is yourself and the timer at that point in time in the contest chair when you're being introduced. And then lastly, mirror your video. There's a button there to mirror your video, so that way you are moving just like you are in a mirror and you're not going like this and getting confused. A recap, since I'm in the green, make sure your camera's in the right place and you're looking at it. We talked about the lighting. We talked about composition. We talked about all those things. We talked about your background or virtual backgrounds. We talked about hearing and being heard, and we talked about your internet connection. And that means it's time for questions. Does anybody have any questions for me? If you do, just raise your hand and it will pop up on the screen that I can see in front of me. Nobody has any questions. We're all experts in this club. I know that. Liz, what could I answer for you?
So going back to the beginning when you were talking about the need to be on Zoom because the millennials and the Gen Zs prefer it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that just for regular meetings? What about speaking gigs?
I only know that the business meetings was 27% of all business meetings are being held virtually now. Speaking gigs, I would imagine that would be different depending on if you're speaking internationally, versus, or a company that's got multiple offices, or if you're speaking in person to a large group. If you want to get a large group together in a single place, then it would make sense to actually have it in person. So I don't have a definitive answer for you, but that's my impressions.
Thank you.
Jim. Thank you.
I have a friend, some of you may know him, Kim Windingland, who has done professional photography, and he says in still photos, which is mostly what he does, he says, make sure that the most interesting thing is not right in the center of the frame. And so he recommends going like a third out or a third up or down. And so what he told me was that since your eyes are the most interesting thing usually when you're presenting, that they should probably be kind of in the upper third. Does that make sense? Does that work for you too?
No, that definitely makes sense. Plus that with the headroom thing, if your eyes are in the middle, it just looks kind of strange. You're wasting a lot of space like that. And something else someone asked me recently about the eyes on a virtual meeting. When you're doing a speech, you can look around like you have an audience. You know you're not looking at the camera, but then come back to the center. So you can actually trick people into thinking you're talking to a big crowd as well. So there's a lot of tricks. But yes, I agree. I agree with that. I like asymmetry myself as well. Rocky.
Thank you. Randy, you've covered so many things that are the most common things to go wrong and to test them and everything else. Out of your years of experience, I'm curious, what is the most unexpected thing that has gone wrong during one of your presentations?
During a live presentation, in person or a virtual?
Virtual. Let's stay virtual.
Well, I have a big studio here by my house. I'm not in it right now, but there's a big studio here. And during those years of COVID, we had to do a lot of virtual meetings where we'd have a room full of presenters that are about to be introduced to go on as a panel, and then another room that's waiting until they're done. And so we have to have live with the host, and we have music playing in between it, just like a live meeting, just so many moving parts. And a hurricane came and hit this area, took out our power and everything. But we had backup generators. We had battery backups on every piece of equipment that was in the system, and we didn't lose a second. But the hurricane was definitely unexpected at that point in time.
Thank you.
Sure. I get PTSD thinking about those years because there's so many things that could go wrong in a virtual meeting. It's just insane. Ruth.
Hi. Gosh, I'm
Hi.
I'm mad that I couldn't get here till late, but better late than never, I suppose. And Randy says Rocky says I'll get a recording. Yay. But this may not be on the recording. So I live in a crazy place. If I knew I was going to be doing Zoom, I wouldn't have moved here. In any case, so I have an issue with being able to stand up. I'd love to be able to stand up if I'm ever asked to for a professional presentation, but there's not a whole lot of room. And I can't use a green screen because all the ones on the market, they're either too big and they can't fit the space, or they're too small this way or that way. And so I feel like what the heck do I do now? And
Okay,
so there's Ghost, you know.
Okay, on the green screen thing, it doesn't have to be green. It could be any blank color. And then you could just put it up against a back wall. Just hang a blanket.
I don't have a back wall. I have bookshelves that can't go
Okay.
anywhere. Yeah.
No, so then you put it on the bookshelf. So you just put a blanket over your bookshelf and have some books, hold it up there, and then you have a nice colored sheet, whatever, something to give you a nice clean wall.
Okay.
I like bookshelves in the background personally, but if you need a clean wall, it could just be any color. It doesn't have to be green. Or you can just go into the dollar store and get probably green sheets for $1. I know you can in Philadelphia because they're insane about those colors. No idea why.
I see. But so for me to be able to stand up, well, let me stand up here. It's kind of like, oh, well, actually, maybe this isn't as bad as I thought it was. Oh, but then
No, that's not bad at all.
Okay, so
then you just want to lift your camera up and put it on. You have a lot of books. Stack it up on a bunch of books, and it'll be right in the right spot.
This is virtual.
Yeah. Oh, I gotcha.
This might work after all. For some reason I tried it, I don't know, a couple years ago during the pandemic, and it didn't seem to work, but well, guess what?
Well, there you go. It's magic.
Thank you. But
Sure.
are you using some kind of software like Prezi or something?
I'm using a lot of stuff here. I've got like 3 different computers going on. There's a vMix is the program I use to take a green screen and add the slides and me together. There's actually a half a second delay. So I have an audio mixer that's putting a half second delay on the audio to make it sync up. There's a lot of moving parts in my studio here. I wouldn't expect anybody else to do it this way. I'm cheating.
Oh, well, I tried Prezi and discovered I couldn't move to the side enough. I would be covering part of the slide.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. One
And-
thing, when you do slides, you
Mhm.
design them so there's space. You have to create the slide to have space. So
Interesting.
otherwise,
All right. Thank you.
sure. Sangeeta,
Randy, that was just a fantastic presentation and just in time for our contest next week at our Princeton Toastmasters.
indeed.
One question I want to ask, can I come to your studio to the contest? I'm just kidding.
You can, yes.
No,
But
that's
I will not be here, and it's complicated.
okay. One question
I
about
will be in, I'll be in a
about
hotel room.
the lighting. You said either the ring or the lamp. Now, one is a white light, and other one is a soft, yellow light. Which one would you, which is better?
You're going to want it to make you look good. So you want a light that's good. I've got these on like a yellow light over here. The ring light I had, it does have different settings on most of the ring lights. So you can have it as bluish here.
Oh,
And I think it has other settings in there as well. Let me see if there's a change. Yeah, there's yellow. So it's got the different colors. Most of the lights now have different color temperature. Look at yourself on the camera, see what you look like, and go with the one that makes you look the best. Like me, I have no tan whatsoever, so I use lights that give me one. It's awesome.
But there is no
All right.
right or wrong. Anything is better.
There's no right or wrong. There are no right answers. There are some wrong answers, but mostly there are no specific right answers. And with that, I think I have run out of time. I see a red card. I see the president there with his hand in the air and a red card. So I want to do a quick close. My goal tonight was to give you some advice and some tips to be your virtual best. If you don't take anything else with you, the two most important things are practice and practice. The more you practice, the more you get comfortable in this environment, and the better you'll become as a speaker and as a communicator. Just because your meeting is virtual doesn't mean that you can't make a strong impression. Make it a good impression. Make it a lasting impression. You can take control of all of the elements, and if you take the time to manage them, your audience can focus not on the technical challenges, but on you. Your audience can focus on you, your presentation, your message. Now, let me circle back to the beginning. If you had any doubts about my nerdiness, our time together tonight should have erased them completely. I am still a nerd, and somehow I'm strangely proud about that. Perhaps some of my nerdiness rubbed off on you. Maybe I gave you a tip or two you can use in your future online meetings or in the fall online speech contest. There's a lot of talent in this room, and I hope to see many of you competing in the next couple of months. Thank you again, Mr. Toastmaster.